Welcome back, everybody, to this episode of the Open Concept Podcast, where we are breaking down unnecessary walls and barriers that stand in the way of greatness. Our guest today, Isabelle Tremblay. Thank you very much for being here. Marketing executive turned entrepreneur, author, and speaker, inspiring others to lead with love and purpose. After 24 years in corporate leadership, she walked away from burnout to rebuild her life through mindset, meditation, and heart-led leadership, which we'll get into. I love that. Her best-selling book, Love, Lead, Succeed, The Supernatural Approach to Business and Life, helps people redefine success without losing themselves. And today, she leads iNovating, co-hosts the Eye on the Industry podcast, and empowers audiences worldwide to transform from the inside out. Followed by over 80,000 people, Isabelle is known for authenticity, warmth, and message of courage, compassion, and growth. And I'm really looking forward for you to sharing some of your story today. Isabelle, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for that nice introduction, and thank you for having me on. I'm excited to share my message with your audience.
Yeah, and for people that don't know who you are and they haven't read your book, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and we'll get into it.
Yeah, so basically, I'm French Canadian, and I moved to Toronto right after university. And I had a passion for business, and I really wanted to have a career and be an amazing leader. So I joined this very large optical company. And I stayed with them for almost 24 years. And I really went up the ladder, from a marketing coordinator to, at the end of my career, I was head of marketing for all their frame and lens brands in Canada, as well as responsible for another business division as well. So really holding two executive roles. And it was a really great journey. But towards the end, I realized that I was really lost in a way that, I was measuring my success by the number of emails I would answer every day, by the number of meetings, another promotion. And I was really starting to be sick, so really burning out. I was also a single mom of two daughters that were in their teenage year, and I was traveling constantly, so always feeling, challenged and, emotionally drained in between my career and in between being a great mother or the best mother I could be. So about 2 years ago, I went on a sick leave, and then I made that courageous decision not to go back to this environment because the culture wasn't aligning with my personal values anymore. And I just decided to love myself first. So, and this is really the core message of my book is leadership really driven with love first. But of course, it integrates many other practical tips on whether it's emotional intelligence or the power of the mind and how to build a positive company culture. And since then, I'm happy to say that of course, I'm completely healed, but I've also launched my own company, iNovating, which is a consulting company that also has a podcast for the optical industry. And then I launched my book in English about 6 months ago, and just launched the French version about 2 weeks ago. So lots of exciting things have happened since then. So I'm here to say that it's it's never too late to reinvent yourself. 49, just launched my own company, wrote a book, launched a podcast. So I want people to if they can just take away one thing, it's to really love themselves, and to never be worried to reinvent themselves and embrace change.
Love that. Well, congratulations. And the podcast on the like, I love the niche podcast because you find yourself just having such a unique following and such a strong following of people that are really interested in what it is that you're talking about. So I love the fact that you've added in the podcast on top of that.
Yes, well, my background is really eyeglasses, but now I'm expanding into, I would say, a higher purpose, or more inspiring people on how to lead with love.
Let me. So you mentioned burnout, right? And you were with this company for about 24 years, which is a pretty common thing for a lot of people. They find some security and they find themselves moving up the ladder of the corporation that they're working with. But you found yourself really burning out, and you said that there was some misalignment in your personal values. I imagine being there for 24 years, there probably was a time where you felt fairly aligned. I'm guessing. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But at that point, was it a company culture thing that had pivoted, that all of a sudden you weren't aligned anymore, or was that just a growth of you as a person that learned more about yourself, developed more, maybe had an epiphany, and all of a sudden that pivoted to where you weren't aligned with those values anymore?
Yeah, I think it was a mixture of both. Because definitely when I joined that company, I love my job. I thought I had, the best job in the world. I started my journey at a meeting in that Disney World, and I was like, oh, this is the best job ever. And I had many amazing moments, and many, I guess, opportunities with that company. But as it got through a few different acquisitions, then things, changed. The culture changed. And when you work for a company that's on the stock market, there's, real high KPIs. And, at some point, I think, unfortunately, they forget about people. And I think for me, I was, ahead of a team of over 20 people, and I was doing two executive positions for different business divisions. So that was completely different work in both of these positions. And I was managing budgets in three different countries. And as I said, the fact that I was a single mom going through, a divorce, and everything that comes with it, at some point, I kept pushing, 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 but I realized at some point that I was like past, I was at a breaking point, and I just couldn't push anymore. So this is why, I've decided to love myself first, and take some time to really regroup. And I completely changed my life through different techniques. But I said, I just focused on myself. I read like probably over 100 books, listened to amazing podcasts like your podcast. And I my doctor gave me medication. I started running with my dog. I did everything I could to to make myself feel better. And I would say the one thing that really helped me grow, and get back to and find my real self, was meditation. Um, so I'm very happy for that journey, and everything happens for a reason, right? So I was able to heal through different techniques, and things to really improve my mental health.
How did you start meditating? Because it was actually just before this podcast, had a lot going on, and when I was transitioning into the mind space of, okay, now I'm going to be jumping on this call with you and interviewing and sitting down. I just needed a minute, right? Catch the breath. And I was focusing outside of my window here. There's a garden out there, and I was focusing just on a plant. And it was wild how just with some, and I took like 3, 4 minutes, but just by deep breathing and just focusing on this one plant, how like literally everything around it just went white and just got foggy, and all I could picture was just this one plant that I was focusing on. And I stepped back and sort of snapped back into things. Whoa, that was weird. Even it was only 3 or 4 minutes. But how, for somebody that is not into meditation or does not have that in your practice, seeing as how it helped you so much, how would somebody get into that, and what are the techniques that you use? Because I think meditation is different for everybody.
Yeah, I would say for somebody that's not used to it, I would probably definitely start with a guided meditation. And there's different apps for this. I personally just fell in love with the meditation from Dr. Joe Dispenza. Actually, he's probably one of the leaders that or doctor that helped me the most through my burnout. I've read 3 of his books, and I've attended 2 of his live events. One of them with over 45 hours of meditation. But I would say, yes, start by doing guided meditation, and there's start small too. Start maybe with just 5 minutes a day, and then increase maybe the number of minutes to, I mean, personally I do about 45 minutes, and in fact I don't do anything in my day until I start with my meditation, because I believe in the fact that you need to live your life intentionally. So I start my day with just focusing on myself and really focusing on what I want from my day, but from my life as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had this moment today, and I was exercising. I got caught up in this morning. I was ready to go for a run, and I have 2 young daughters at home, and I was just about to walk out the door. It was about 5:45 this morning. My dog was strapped onto my waist. I have my running gear on. I'm just about to walk out the door, and I hear my oldest daughter, who's 4 years old. She started crying from her bedroom, and she knew that somebody was gone, and she was having a nightmare or whatever. And I was like, okay, I had 2 choices to make. I was like, all right, I'm going to either walk out the door and just leave her to cry, and mom will figure that out, or I will go back in there and lie down with her and have her go back to sleep. And so I went back in, obviously, because I have my second daughter is only 4 months old, and if my oldest daughter got up, then she would wake up the baby, and it was going to be a whole thing, and I didn't want to have to make anybody suffer and deal with that. So went back in, laid down with my daughter, but I didn't get to go for a run this morning, even though that was really where my head was, and I was trying to get started. And after she got back down to bed, and she fell back to sleep, and at that point I had a few things to do, so I went to the gym a little later in the morning, little later than I normally would, but I found myself very, very focused when I got to the gym. And I had this moment where I was thought crossed my mind that if you're going to make it happen, make it worth it. If you're going to make it happen, make it count. And because I was rushed to get to the gym, rushed to get my workout in, and in business, and especially with kids, I've had to really adapt to become more and more flexible in my schedule and be able to be a little more dynamic and not so rigid in case something like this happens. But when I was lying down with my daughter, I made that decision to lie down with her, I was like, this is my choice. This is what I'm deciding to do. Be all in on this choice.
Yeah.
And be right there in the moment, choose to be where my feet are. And when I was at the gym, the same thought came through my mind, but it was like, I am here. I only have 45 minutes, so I am going to absolutely make the most of this 45 minutes before, something else gets disrupted. But that was the thought that had come to me. If you're going to make it happen, make it worth it.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. I think, we should always live in the power of the present moment. But I think with meditation, a lot of people find it challenging, because it's, you think you need to focus on nothing. and our mind is not made naturally to focus on nothing, right? It always finds a way to like think about things that will add pressure to you or stress, and it's just that constant chatter. So that's why some of the great meditators or experts of this world, they say, if you don't do a guided meditation, you should ask yourself a question. And one of the question that's recommended is, who am I? Because if you start thinking about nothing, it's impossible for most, unless you're really experienced, and because your brain chatter is going to start going, and then it makes it impossible to to think about nothing. But I like your story earlier about the flower, because if you focus on something. One of my technique was when I was getting stressed out at work, like if I'm drinking a coffee, then I'll start staring at my cup, and I'll be, oh, how is that cup? What does it look like? And how does the coffee taste? So just something to take your mind off, where the stress is coming from.
Can you describe burnout for us, for nobody that, for somebody that may be thinking that they're going through burnout, or somebody that hasn't gone through that? When you were burning out at your, as you mentioned earlier, what were the symptoms that were going on? What was happening inside of you when you knew, all right, I've hit a point? What was going on in your world when that happened? What were you feeling? What was going on inside you?
Yeah, I think, and that's a great question, because the issue with burnout is it creeps in slowly. And a lot of people are probably in a burnout right now and they're still working, but because they're super achievers, or probably like I was, well, you're just thinking about it, about, oh, well, that's just stress, or I didn't get a good night's sleep last night, so I'm just tired. But I think when you know and understand that you're completely burned out is when you pass that breaking point. So for me, I would sit on my computer and try to, write an email. And that's back when, a couple of years ago, AI wasn't as popular. I guess now it'd be a little easier, but, I would try to write an email and I couldn't focus on anything. And just to bring it back to my reality, some days I had like 16, 17 meetings. Some of them I was triple booked. And, your mind is not made to go in between problems to problems to problems, or to get text messages at 6 o'clock in the morning and 11 p.m. at night, and people on the other end expecting you to answer. So to answer your question, I think to know when you're actually burning out, it's about self awareness, and then realizing that you're past that breaking point. You can't focus anymore. A lot of people will get depression at the same time as burnout, so you'll feel maybe your emotions are at a very high level at the same point, and you just don't feel like getting out of bed in the morning. And that's what was happening to me. And when I went to see my family doctor, he made it clear that I needed to take some time off of work. So this is what I did, and prescribed some medication. And but I think medication is one thing, but it's really, to heal from burnout, you really need to take a lot of steps, to really focus on your health, whether it's through exercise, things like meditation, reading, learning. And for me, as I mentioned, meditation was really the anchor that helped me go through it.
I'm going to ask you two questions. The about burnout specifically. If you are working at a company and you're an employee or a team member of a company, maybe you're in an executive position such as you were, and you're starting to feel some of these symptoms coming in. What are the things? Is it boundaries that you need to put up? Is it is it asking for help? Is it being open and honest with your employer? So I think, like you mentioned, a lot of high achievers, they might be working through this and not even knowing what it is, but because they are high achievers, they just keep pushing, right? And I think that we all have a little bit of that inside of us. But first of all, if you were an employee of a company and you were really working yourself up and you were trying to not only avoid burnout but advance your career and take on more responsibility, but you were feeling these symptoms, what needs to happen for you to avoid that? And as a leader of a company, what do you need to be doing as a leader to identify that this might be happening to some of your team members, and what should you be doing about it as the owner of the company or the leader of the organization to make sure that your team members are not falling into this category of burning out?
Yeah, I would say as the employee, it's challenging because, if you have a good manager or a good leader, where, you have an open space and, they welcome your questions and they want to know really how you're doing, leaders with love, then you can do that. I think in my case, I had three bosses. I talked to all of them and I talked to the VP of HR, and, just nothing happened. And I was actually told by one of my boss that's no longer with the company now that she expected me to do better, actually. So that environment is not, definitely not welcoming for people or employees to, develop their full potential and feel safe in a great company culture. But I would say leaders, what they need to do is, listen to their people. A leader is, really at the service of their employees, of their team. So it's to lead with emotional intelligence, depending on the size of the company. Work with your HR department on implementation of strategies on how you can prevent burnout. If employees go, you need to make sure that you have strategies and systems in place to either replace them or reduce the workload for other employees so that you can avoid burnout. So it goes back to the core of my book. How do you avoid burnout for your team? It's really leading with love by serving other, creating that corporate culture that's more apt to avoid such, I guess we can call it a disease, or I think for me, I would recommend that you leaders see people, that they listen with their heart when people are talking. And, of course, you have to achieve results, but we're all human beings. So lead with compassion and care. And remember that you're leading, human beings, not only achieving numbers.
Yeah. So what is, like, leading with love, right? Love, lead, succeed in your book and your title, other than the fact that, like, it rhymes really well and it goes well together and it sounds great, but it starts with love. And so when you're talking about leading with love, I think there's a lot of people that they love what they do. Maybe they love what their mission is. Maybe they're a little unsure about it, and they do want to be a good leader. I don't know a single business owner that does not want to be a good business owner. They have a different version of what a good business owner is. Most of the business owners that I talk to share a similar philosophy to you, is sort of lead with your heart. But what does leading with love really mean to you? Where does that start? Does it start with loving what you do? Does it start with loving the mission that you're on? Does it start
Mhm.
with loving yourself first and what you're about? Does it start with loving your people? What does leading with love mean to you? And where does that start?
I believe that leading with love really starts with self awareness. So when you're self aware, you're going to you're going to lead with a purpose as well. And this transparency and also emotional intelligence will bring you to inspire others. So, and to be a great leader, we all know that we know we need to inspire our team to, to become their best potential and ability. But leading with love also starts with having a still mind, and as I mentioned, like a greater purpose. And I would say it goes too with gratitude, because gratitude is the ultimate state of receivership. And I can't say enough about being grateful for everything in life, but for in business, for your team, because appreciation brings more, and your team will be more willing to really go over and above to achieve your objectives.
Oh, I love that. And I was another quick story about my daughter here, but this morning, because it's relevant to our conversation, I brought her down to the beach, and I think people hear the word gratitude, and I think they hear oh, that's I hear that all the time, but I don't like it's maybe a little hokey pokey, but what it really means is like starting off and just being thankful for what it is that you have, what you're doing. And I brought my daughter down to the beach this morning, and we sat on a log, and I told her, I said, every morning when I come down here and I walk the dog, I start my day and I have a conversation, just say out loud the things that I'm grateful for. And in my case, it's often, thank you for my health, thank you for my family, thank you for the opportunity in front of me, thank you for my mindset, thank you for my ability to think through problems, thank you for the wonderful people in my life, whatever that may be. And I started talking to her about this, and I started asking her, well, what are you thankful for? And we sat down on this log, and at 4 years old, she was able to comprehend. And she told me the things that she was thankful for. It was, her friend at school, and she was
Wow.
thankful for mom and dad, and she was thankful for her new toy that she had just gotten. It was very cute, but she was able to comprehend that. And I asked her afterwards, I was like, how did that make you feel? And she's like, I'm thankful. I'm thankful for that
Yeah,
conversation. And I just thought that it was a really good way to, in a really good time and moment to introduce that into somebody at such a young age. And I left there thinking, man, if I didn't accomplish another single thing today, I'm really happy with that 15 minutes that I was able to accomplish with my daughter today.
that's like truly amazing. And I because I think sometimes we teach the wrong things in school. So thankfully there's parents like you. I'm definitely reminding my daughters all the time about the power of being grateful. And I talk about a few examples in my book, but I on my morning walks too, I go through the 50 things that I'm grateful for, and at night I have this might sound woo woo, but I have this gratitude rock, on my table, and I just remind myself before I go to sleep, what I'm grateful for today, because people tend to focus on what they don't have instead of appreciating what they have. And I think that mindset switch can really change people's life.
A piece of advice that was given to me was set up triggers. And what I mean by that is set up, just know that, like in your case, you mentioned it was a rock, your
I
gratitude
have
rock.
a rock, yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's called a gratitude rock.
The gratitude rock. But I love that. But whether it's going to be a chair in your home, whether it's going to be, on your exercise bike, whether it's going to be walking through a specific door frame in your house, whether it's a rock that you hold on to, or whether it's when you grab your Kindle or whenever you grab a pen, like whatever that can be, tag whatever tag a scenario or a purpose with that object so that you know when you're sitting down in that chair, it just triggers you. I mean, in this case, might trigger you to recite the things that you're grateful for, or if it's you're on your couch and you have a pen that's sitting there, or a vase of flowers or whatever that is. When you're looking at that, you understand, okay, this is a creative space. I see that. Now my mind goes into this space of creativity, and I'm going to be starting to build all these things. So when you're working through your different mindsets of the day, and when you're working on certain things, having these trigger areas or these triggers like your rock, I think is a super powerful place to it's just like a switch where now all of a sudden you can change from one state of mind to another. And that's been a pretty powerful thing for me.
I mean, I think that can be a game changer because it just reminds you, our lives are so busy, that just focusing on an object, whatever it is, it doesn't need to be a gratitude rock, but something that reminds you to be grateful.
Yeah, in a lot of cases, I have a friend, and he has a chain around his neck, and that chain has a little emblem, and it's just like, hey, he wears it because he knows that he can grab onto it, and it's just a reminder for him to understand what it is that he's working for, and it's always there with him, right? So if he's at the gym and he knows and he can see it, and he even if he doesn't want to be there, that's a reminder to him as to why he's doing what he's doing. Or if he's finds himself in a situation where he's getting really clustered or depressed, and it's just simply like grabbing onto the emblem, and then it's that reset or that reframe of knowing why he's there, and that what he's doing right now is worth his time, and worth him putting the time and energy and heartache into and into that that goal. So I think those triggers are really awesome.
Definitely. I have something similar. I have a necklace with a butterfly, which is on the cover of my book, that was given to me by one of my daughters. So when I feel like my mind is not going into a positive way, I look at the butterfly and I just embrace a change and transformation. And that really helps me stay grounded.
Writing a book is no joke. When you were sitting down, and I imagine that was this writing a book something that you wanted to do for quite a long time, but you just never had the time to do it, and finally you carved some time out to make that happen.
Uh, Exactly. I always wanted to write a book, but because I was, working over 80 hours a week, I really didn't have time for it. So that, as I said earlier, sometimes everything happens for a reason. So my sick leave allowed me to write a book because I was learning so much through all the books I was reading, the podcast. And one morning I woke up with clarity that I needed to share all the learnings, and all the teachings and everything I knew now, to everyone, because for me it was so transformative. So I just started writing, and then I continued until I think page 224, and it's been an amazing experience. Very a lot of hours, but to me, it was part of my transformation, right? To share. I really didn't expect to be. At first, I was thinking, a book about business and strategies, but I really didn't expect the book to go where it went, like talking about burnout, about the power of the mind, really about how to be a supernatural leader. But it really put me in a very vulnerable space where I even shared like how I woke up or awakened at the age of 47, and realized what was my true purpose. So I made it a much more inspirational book about, at first it was more for business, but now I've added and in life, because I think whether you're, leading a team of 100, or just want to inspire your family, or just, for yourself, you can take something out of this book, and really tap into your unlimited potential.
Writing a book, talking to people that do write books, they often talk about writing a book as a form of meditation itself. right? Once you get into
Yeah.
that flow, and like that's all you can concentrate on, that's all you can see. You find yourself in that flow state, which is a lot. It's a difficult thing to find yourself in if you don't enjoy doing what you're doing. But what's your writing process like? Because imagine you're taking all of your experience, you're taking what's on your heart, you're taking what you've learned over all of your years of life, and you want to put it into a book in a way that is going to be meaningful. But how do you sit down and gather all those thoughts and start formatting it into a way that is going to be impactful? What is your writing process like?
Yeah, so I started writing kind of an overview or a sketch of the book with I already knew at the very beginning like the title of each chapter, and then I started writing just notes on each chapter, doing a lot of research. If I'm talking about the power of the mind or burnout, I wanted some real life examples of other people that burned out. If I'm talking about the law of attraction, I wanted to some real examples, and have some research and quote different other books and websites online about this as well. So I would say a lot of research went in before I started really writing. And then I had a company just helping me at the end with the editing. So then after that, there was a lot of back and forth on whether I agreed with some recommendations or not. So I probably went through the book, I don't know how many times, like 10, 12 times before it was finally published. So it's a long process. And then in the French version, I decided to get it translated, even though French is my first language. But then I rewrote everything because sometimes, a translation is not coming from you. So um yeah, so that was my process. And after that, of course, if you it made bestseller on Amazon after a couple of months, but I still need to really work on the marketing part of it, because a book, won't just become successful overnight, and you really need to have the proper strategy to market it, especially on Amazon, but other platforms as well.
Yeah, I was watching Alex Hormozzi's live book launch over a couple of days there, and him setting the new world record of selling books was overwhelming. It was very cool to watch, but I think it was 2.5 million copies in 24 hours, something along those lines. Like it was wild
Wow.
to see like the amount of marketing that went into it, but he absolutely knocked it out of the park. And and just seeing that happen in real time, I thought was very, very cool. But yeah, no doubt you can write the best book on the planet, but if it does not get in front of people, they will never know about it, and they'll go out and
Yeah.
they'll pick up inferior books and learn from inferior authors. The same way that if you're a business owner and you offer the best product or service on the planet, but nobody knows who you are, or very few people know who you are, and you're not willing to sell to your customers your service because you get held up on whatever mindset that you're in at the time, your competitors will, right?
Yeah.
And your customers are going to find themselves with a inferior service or product. So if you have something that you truly truly believe in, like it is your job to get your product or service in front of people, especially if you believe that it can transform somebody's life, transform somebody's space, or whatever it is that help them with weight loss, whatever that is. If you're
Yeah.
exceptionally good at it, you can't hide behind what you do, because you're going to be doing the world a disservice.
Absolutely. And I believe we should, to be successful at what you do, you need to focus on a mission that helps other people. So that's why with this book, I have this mission of positively impacting the life of over 1 million people. But I know that it might be hard at the beginning to do it just, one book sell, one book at a time. So I'm also working on it, on building my public speaking business. And at some point, I may even launch a podcast about, my book platform. But I know one day I'll get there because I believe in my mission, and I know it's content that can really help people.
You have a favorite chapter in your book?
Yeah, my favorite chapter would be the power of the mind, the chapter on the power of the mind, because
Walk us through the power of the mind.
yeah, so in that chapter I really go through I go through the law of attraction, but not only that, and I think the law of attraction sounds woo woo for a lot of people, but that's because a lot of people forget too that it's not just about your thoughts that will bring what's happening in your environment or reality. It's your thoughts combined with emotions and beliefs, but also actions are very important, right? So I had this dream about publishing this book. Well, that didn't happen until I started writing it. But for me, I have, my personal example too of how I shifted my focus on, questioning why, these things were happening to me, and why, why I was sick, and why I was losing all this money through my divorce. um then I switch my mindset, right, to first of all, to have a still mind through the power of meditation. And in the book, in that chapter, I go through the different style of meditation, but then I go through practical tips too on how how you can have a still mind and tap really into your mind power. I mentioned a few examples about the gratitude walk, but there's many other tips that I share in that chapter. But to go back to I guess my focus, I really switched on how like what I want from life instead of what's happening to me. And as soon as I started being more not only with a calm mind, but being more intentional about what I wanted in my life, then things just started changing by having, this positive attitude, by implementing gratitude. Then, I'd say my whole life changed from, being on sick leave to, as I said, start launching my own company, launching a book, and the podcast. So I think the reason why that chapter is the one that I love the most, is because I think that's the most transformative chapter for someone that really feels lost, and so discovering your why. And and it's really a chapter that recaps and summarizes a lot of books that I've read too. Whether I mentioned Joe Dispenza, but there's the great Bob Proctor, and Lewis Howes, and one of my favorite book from Napoleon Hill too, Think and Grow Rich. So I go through a lot of so it's kind of getting a just a chapter of everything I've learned about the power of the mind. And I'd say one day, like, I feel called to explore that a little further, and there might be another book in my future that would just dive more into the power of the mind, because I'm so passionate about it.
There's no doubt talking to you that there's another book in your future. I think that'll
I
definitely
hope
happen.
so.
Are there any tactical? Can you give us an example, or do you mind sharing examples of a shift in mindset? And what I mean by that is, are there things that were going on in your life, and at some point you may have viewed them in a certain way, or very negatively, or maybe that it was affecting you, or you were a victim of a certain situation, but you were able to switch that mindset to something very different and saw it from a different perspective, whatever might be going on through your life. Are you willing to share a couple of examples of maybe some things that were going on, and how your previous version of you would have, and maybe your darker times that you were going through, viewed those circumstances, and how after your personal transformation and after the personal growth that you've been going through would shift that mindset. So if that same thing was going on, how the perspective that you might be looking at that, or that lens that you might be looking at through at this point.
Yeah, I guess I would have a professional one and a personal one. I can start with the personal one without sharing too many details, but I would go back to my like my divorce, and like, you know, many divorces, that they tend to be expensive, but mine was, without sharing details on the numbers, it was very, very expensive. And I've held this, you know, this, I don't want to call it hate, but this, you know, the sentiment, the negative sentiment inside of me. And all I could think about was really all the money I was losing, and it was a lot of money. But the thing is, we all have 100% responsibility in our life, and as long as I was focusing on that negative thing happening to me, well, guess what? More of it was happening to me. But through the work I've been doing over the last couple of years, you know, I completely forgave. Myself, not only my ex, but myself, for that negative thinking. And I, you know, something similar happened at work, where I had you know, I would say a toxic leader that would be bullying basically me, saying, you know, terrible things. And same thing, as you know, I forgave that person. So I think, as human being, and I don't want to get too much in the spirituality, but you know, we should never judge. So um it's a lot about reframing. So when something bad happens to you, instead of saying, why is this happening to me, whether it's something small like you know, losing $20, or something really big like being sick, like, instead, like, ask yourself, what can I learn from this situation, right? As I said, a lot of things happen for a specific reason. And for me, my burnout, you know, a lot of amazing things came out of it. I was able to write a book. I've learned so much, and I feel like I've awakened, and I live my life with a much bigger purpose now. So that's what I would say about this.
Beautiful. Yeah. I was going through, I'm building out we have a team meeting coming up, and I'm building up a structure for it. And we're reviewing the first 3 quarters of the year as we go into Q4. And I started developing the framework of the lesson plan that I'm going to be going through and what we're going to be going on. And it started with, okay, well, what have we achieved over this year? Because you move through the year, and a lot of times you think, man, I just, haven't really accomplished much, haven't really accomplished enough. When we started writing down all the things that we accomplished over the first 3 quarters of the year, I was just like, I just kept going and going and going and going. I was like, man, we're doing some great things here, some things that we have never done in years previously. And it just, I think that exercise of being able to take pen to paper and write down these things that you are maybe not even grateful for, but if you're starting to lose confidence and you're looking for little wins, if you start looking for these little wins that are going to compound and start building momentum in your mind, in your mindset, or your mind shift, if you're looking for little wins, and you start finding them, you're going to start seeing them everywhere. And those little wins are just going to compound into a winning mindset, where now everything that you're doing, you just feel like you're winning. And even if these situations come up where maybe you didn't hit, in work, maybe it's a target that you didn't hit, or if it's a personal goal that you didn't hit or didn't quite achieve, your reframe of that experience is going to be very, very different than an, oh shit, why, this is happening to me thing. It's like, no, actually the process of getting there, look who I've become in this process of actually hitting or trying to achieve and trying to hit these goals. And I think people forget about that journey a lot.
Absolutely. And sometimes it's breaking down those goals, because sometimes we put, I mean, whether it's for life or business, we have those very high inspirational goals, but maybe if you break it down, and I think it's Ed Millett that in one of his books say, break it down, like if it's a 5-year goal, but break it down in like a 6 months increment or year increments, and then it becomes more achievable. And writing it down on paper is so important. And that's one of the other piece I have in my chapter on the power of the mind. I go through visualization and how you should through different techniques, whether it's a vision board or different techniques to really be able to remind yourself of your goals every day. I have right in front of me here, I have a $1 million check written to me. And I think people should use those, visual things to really remind themselves about where they want to go. And the same thing in business, establish those goals, revisit them on a regular basis, not only a quarterly basis, but with your team, like revisit, what are your goals and your objectives.
Yeah, yeah, on as regularly as possible. I review my personal goals every single day, and I
Yeah.
used an AI. We mentioned AI earlier, and AI is a big topic that comes up on most of our podcasts. But one thing that I found, which was wildly exciting, is I was given some. I was asked a question, and that question was, "Do you have a million or $100 million vision? Do you have $100 million plan in your business? Do you have a one-page plan to get to $100 million?" And I said, "Well,
Oh,
no, I don't. I have other targets. I had written out a goal to get to 30 million, but I didn't have $100 million plan." And I was told, go back and build out that $100 million plan. And I said, okay, all right, what am I going to do? So I sat down and I started I looked at all my personal goals, because I have 12 very clear personal goals for the next 12 months that I wanted to hit. And I review those every single day. So I put in our business goals. I opened up ChatGPT and I started, because AI, it starts to understand you more and more as a human being. The more that you use it, the more information that you put into it. So I guess understand your nuances and your tones and your preferences. And I had put in our business goals, and I said, what needs to be true about these goals to get to $100 million? And then I took it even further, and I said, well, these are my personal goals that I want to achieve in the next 12 months. And I put in those goals as well, and said, don't forget about these personal goals as well. What is the plan that I need to achieve these personal goals over a 1-year plan, but also a daily regiment? And then I asked it again after it broke it down, and it said, okay, here tactically, here's some things that you can make sure that you can do on a daily basis to ensure that you're going to hit these goals. And then I asked it the biggest question of all: who do I need to become? Who is the person that I need to become in order
wow.
to achieve this? And that was pardon my language, but that was a mind fuck right
Yeah.
there. And it was like, okay, do I have what it takes to be that person that is going to get to that level? And a lot of insights, and there was a lot of overwhelm. Like, as I'm going through and I'm reading this, it's like it's fun, it's exciting, but it's scary. It's like it's terrifying at the same time, because that there's maybe traits or bad habits or whatever that you might have that do not align with this person that is going to get to that $100 million target. And so that was a really interesting exercise that I went through back and forth with ChatGPT to discover who that person needed to be.
And do you think you can get there?
Hell yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. I love it. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. Isabelle, if you could leave, very impressive. I don't think that there's a lot of people at the age of 47 that get to a point where they now make this major shift in their, not only their life but their career and their purpose. I think it's incredibly impressive. But if you could leave our listeners today with a single message from your book, from your heart, that you wanted to leave with them, that you wanted them to know and you wanted them to understand, what is it that you would leave with them? What message would you give?
I would say, to tap into your unlimited self, you really need to love yourself first. And that starts with self awareness, and really ask yourself the big questions. So your why, establish objectives as we discuss, and live a life of service, whether it's in your personal life or at work. We're all here to serve and help others. And if you're looking for more inspiration than my book, Love, Lead, Succeed, there's more information about it on my website, loveleadsucceed.ca, or you can get your own copy on Amazon.
Awesome. And where can people find you on social media?
At Isabelle Tremblay Author 2025, or on LinkedIn under Isabelle Tremblay. Thank you very much, Brendan, for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been a very insightful discussion.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll make sure that we put all your information in the show notes as well. Isabelle, thank you so much for being here, and to all of our listeners that are here and still with us, thank you very, very much. And until next time, stay blessed. Have a wonderful day. Rock and roll. Cheers.